How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Ruckus and The Menace podcast. I'm Spinus the Menace.
And I am Ruckus, and we are now on Rumble. So go check us out there and everything else, including Anchor, Stitcher, and your favorite podcast place.
Well, you haven't hit Apple Podcasts yet, have you?
Nope, because it is kind of just a royal pain, so I just gave up. I'm not really an Apple fan.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have every single one of them yet, but at least we are on Spotify. You can always check us out through YouTube via searching for Ruckus and The Menace. And just about any of them, except for Apple Podcasts at the current moment. For all of you Apple people, I may eventually have to start prodding over here for that. But in due time, people. But other than that, how we doing, Ruckus?
I am chilling like a villain. I've been playing a lot of video games like Bug Snacks and just grinding the hell out of this new update that we'll get into soon. Been watching a lot of NBA playoffs and watching the Royals lose a lot. They're on a 6-game losing streak, and it saddens me. We got rid of our hitting coach and Terry Bradshaw. Not the Terry Bradshaw that threw as a quarterback for the Steelers, but a Terry Bradshaw that came up from AAA Omaha and became eventually the hitting coach. And I believe Dale Swaim was the hitting coach before he left. But yeah, doing that and also watching the Evil Dead series. I still need to watch Army of Darkness, but so far, so good. How about you?
Oh, well, I will say that the weekend with my girlfriend coming up here went very well. I've been pet sitting for the family because I live in the loft of my parents' house, and at least for the moment, and I have been pet sitting because they are on vacation at the moment. So I've been holding the fort down. So that's where a good bit of my time has been invested, other than having to grind a few like grinding through things we'll mention later, and other things that will not be discussed on air at the moment because my girlfriend does listen, and I don't need. Oh yeah, it started out. Your little radio debacle there, Ruckus. You know what you did. That as a whole was brought up.
Do I get you in trouble?
No, actually. No.
Was she for it? She was like, "Hey, it is a chick magnet." But no, just for me.
Yeah, it was kind of one of those type of things. I do not want to be in any further trouble or go into too much detail on anything because there are some notable things that somebody must not know.
Uh-oh.
And oh, don't get me wrong, all the information will be there in due time, and some of the stuff doesn't even have a format yet. However, there is still confidential information that I will not reveal due to probing ears that may inquire. You know who you are. Earlier tonight, the reason why we kind of started so late was that I was actually out at a local baseball game here for my own high school and pretty much a cross county rival. But this regional playoff is the winner of a best of 3 series goes on to state. And that is actually played at Appalachian Power Park. So so basically what this game was that this was game 2 of a best of 3, and now the series is tied at 1 and they play tomorrow night. Well, it would be tomorrow night kind of in dating of this podcast. So if you're listening after such and such a date, they will have already played.
By the way, what was that coach's name that was a Hall of Fame coach?
Oh, the Hall of Fame coach for Jefferson, John Lowry. John Lowry Sr., who I also go to church with his son and grandfam, well, pretty much grandchildren as well, and have very good ties. I actually was talking with the grandson, like one of the two grandsons, who I also have very good ties with through other related things of my church. Throughout that time, just kind of catching up on some things that he may have missed due to him not being with us for a community group thing the night before. So kind of filling him in.
So are you ready to kick things off?
Yeah, let's go ahead and kick things off with the weekly lineup. All right, Ruckus, where do we want to go ahead and start?
I really want to knock out the NBA playoffs. So, do you want me to recap what's going on with the Golden State Warriors and the Dallas Mavericks?
Oh, go ahead and do that series.
So, it all seemed like Golden State was going to win. They still haven't won yet in this best of 7?
7? Yep,
series.
7.
But the Mavericks came out, and they came out looking good, even through like the first half, and a lot of the analysts, including K. Smith, Charles Chuck Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal, and Ernie Johnson were all thinking there's no way the Mavericks are going to keep the lead and they're going to blow it because of the so-called weather delay they had at American Airlines. And with that, they took that to heart and they took a 3-1 into the what was going to be the casket to the 4-0 victory for the Warriors. Personally, I think the Mavericks still have a chance. Yes, it's a very slim chance, but also Luka Doncic and the Mavericks are 3-0 in elimination games so far. So we will have to see how that goes.
They have to do something that has never been done in pro basketball, which is come back from 3-0. It's been done in the NHL before, and it has only been done in Major League Baseball once. Shout out 30 for 30, 4 nights in October. If you don't know it, watch it. It's pretty much the Boston Red Sox were that team in 2004 that came back from 3-0 and beat the evil empire that is the New York Yankees.
And technically speaking, it's not 3-1, so weren't the Cleveland Cavaliers the first in the NBA to do 3-1 over the Warriors?
Well, it's 3-1 now. But here's the thing. Yeah. It started out at 3-0. The difference between the Cavaliers' whole thing is that the Cavaliers did win a game in between it being 3-1, between it being 2-0 and 3-1, or 1-0 and 3-1. So they won somewhere in between when Golden State eventually got to 3-1. So this is actually a 3-0, not a 3-1. I mean, it's a 3-1 now just simply because the Mavericks have won. But when you break it down, it's a 3-0. It was a 3-0 to start with.
Correct. I was just making a smart ass observation there. For your fitness.
Yeah, I got where you were going with that, but technicalities aside, but I have to throw the technicality just simply because if this ultimately ends up happening, it's going to be more scrutiny to a 3-0 lead, not a 3-1, which actually adds more to the embarrassment.
So, what do you think about that Miami game, or that series, I should
Oh,
say?
this series is back and forth, knockdowns, dragouts. You don't know who's gonna be winning on either side of it. And the break even game was played tonight, or tonight as of recording time, of which Boston has won by 13. The series will go back to Boston on Friday for game 6. So what I'm really thinking here is that momentum may favor Boston at this point. You've had times where Boston's gone small. You've had Jimmy Butler play. You had Bam's been playing. Bam's been playing well. It seems like both of these teams. This is what you truly want in a 1-versus-2 matchup. The clash of your titans in a conference finals, and this would be very much not a surprise if it goes 7.
I have a feeling it will because of the fact that they go neck and neck, and I have a feeling Miami wins on Friday, and they are in Miami or Boston on Friday.
No, they're in Boston. They're
Do
in
they
Boston on
do they
Friday.
ever win in Boston a couple times?
Let's see. I do
Because
want to
isn't it
look at.
back and forth, or is it kind of like the MLB where they like do a couple games in the home arena and then 2 games at the other arena? So like,
It's a 2-2-1-1-1.
okay, so
So
then if they win on Friday against the Celtics, then they go back to Miami.
right. So where it's at right now is that actually the first 4 games were back and forth between the Celtics and Heat, and it actually was a back and forth. Miami won game 1, Boston won game 2, Miami won game 3, Boston won game 4. This is the first time Boston has gone back to back, and this game tonight was also the lowest scoring game of the series.
Yeah, I just didn't know if there was like a home bias. Like obviously there's home field advantage, but I just didn't know if the advantage was actually being taken by either team.
It really hasn't because it's been split. Because it's been split, both of them have been split. Miami has home floor because of the higher seed, but really hasn't been able to take advantage of it because the series has been back and forth. And now Boston has finally stolen one from home, which stolen another one at home or on the road against Miami. So I think Boston uses old Uncle Mo to their advantage and wins this series in 6, as they will have home floor for the game. And I think they'll play themselves up. They'll play themselves up to strength and defend home floor, and become the first team to advance. Well, that is if the Warriors continue to struggle or be on the struggle bus and not take advantage of being at home for the next one because of that 2-2-1-1-1. Now, baseball does do a 2-3-2.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when we were
Yep.
talking just now about it. Um, do you want to go into the NHL playoffs now, or are we?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
we can go into the NHL. All right. So what has gone on? In the NHL? A team has already advanced to the conference finals, and it is in the Eastern Conference. The Tampa Bay Lightning swept through and won the Battle of Florida 4-0. So they are now the first team to advance to be one round closer to competing for another Stanley Cup. On the other side of that, the New York Rangers tied the series yesterday with the Carolina Hurricanes after taking a 4-1 victory. I really think if this series kind of continues the momentum, they actually will be back in Charlotte on Thursday, on May 26th. So Charlotte will be the hub there. I think that series is going to go 7 games. And in the Battle of Alberta, the Edmonton Oilers are now up 3-1 on the Calgary Flames. And that to me is a little shocking, but both of those teams are evenly matched. And then the other Western Conference game, it is now 3-2 Colorado as the St. Louis Blues scored a goal in overtime to win 5-4. So we've got ourselves a couple of intriguing series going on, and I see maybe should teams continue to collapse? Should somebody collapse that is up 3-2? I could see a 7-game series somewhere in there, especially because that Blues series goes back to St. Louis. As the NHL. Remember how I said they have that 2-2-1-1-1?
Uh-huh.
In the NBA? The NHL does the same thing.
Do they also have Dawn dish soap?
What? Oh,
for the Stanley Cup. You gotta get it clean before you celebrate.
I'm sure they have all the disinfectant sanitizers. Yes, Ruckus, the Stanley Cup is going to be sanitary when it is presented.
Oh, thank God. I was so worried.
What was there even to worry about?
I don't know, but it's called a joke.
All right. Well, outside of the big sports here, Justin Thomas has won the PGA Championship. Tiger Woods was able to make the cut to get into the weekend, but after a 79 on the Saturday portion of it, he withdrew from the tournament. Kylian Mbappe, a notable Frenchman who has been playing for PSG or Paris Saint-Germain, he has chosen to stay with PSG. There were many rumors of him going to Real Madrid. He is actually snubbing Real Madrid, pretty much citing that he can still develop as a player in Paris as opposed to going to Madrid. I think overall, though Real Madrid was probably coming with that money, he's still got a bag there in Paris.
Money.
Oh yeah, it's like, I'm gonna say, as far as the quality of competition that you're gonna have to work with, I would say Real Madrid is a little bit of a better draw. But if you're wanting to talk about development and then still also having great players to play alongside, you're really at a 6 in one, half a dozen in the other. It's just the competition is a little better in the Spanish league rather than the French league.
The Espanol league.
Yeah, La Liga, yeah. So that so that so there's some differences. So there's some differences, and I think in due time Mbappe will transfer at some point, but I wouldn't be surprised if he after a while, maybe after some deeper runs with PSG, I don't think he's going to go to the Spanish league at all. I think his next transfer is probably going to be to the Prem, going to England, going to the English Premier League and competing.
Sounds like a plan, Stan.
Yep. All right. So now we're going to go to one that's for my own team. It has been a report that is, well, though notably, I'm going to go off script here for the first one, that Colin Kaepernick has worked out with the Las Vegas Raiders. That this one was not in our notes, but I did see a report on that.
That is fair enough because we had it was more kind of like almost a just out of nowhere scenario, so there's no worries on that end. I honestly saw it as another okay, oh well he's gonna work out somewhere, and then maybe something happens, something doesn't, but we'll have to see with that.
Yeah. All right. But then apparently a rumor surfaced that actually I think it's going to have a little bit of like I would especially enjoy this more if it were true. That owners have reportedly started counting votes in a possible ouster for Dan Snyder, the owner of the Washington Commanders, and being able to force him to sell. Snyder was not in Atlanta for the owners' meetings. But if this vote were to pass, 24 out of the 31 other owners would be required to vote yay on forcing Dan Snyder to sell to be able to have it pass. But it's hard to tell if there's really going to be any speculation from this good old boys club that is known as the NFL ownerships.
Let's be honest here. Does he own how many other teams does he own besides the Washington Commanders? Doesn't
I
he
think
own
he
more
just
than them?
think he just has the Commanders. But I would much rather see him gone, because with him gone it makes the Commanders relevant again. And honestly, his issues of having the financial books be messed up, and the owners are now going to be fed up because you done messed with their pockets.
Also, his whole he's had a lot of issues as of recently and in the past too. I used to think Robert Kraft was bad, but my god, Dan Schneider is 10 times worse.
Oh, his whole entire workplace culture thing over this time, it's like a three-ring and players playing here are kind of stuck in a three-ring circus, just trying to dodge all of the off-field issues while trying to make themselves known in the team, for a team that basically Dan Snyder just is building this thing just to line his own pocket.
And the thing that's crappy about it too is there was a few seasons ago where there was a defensive end that had cancer and they made him still play, which I didn't really agree with.
The Trent Williams issue, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Trent Williams offensive lineman or different Trent Williams?
Trent Williams was an offensive lineman, yeah. It was an
Yeah,
offensive
so
tackle.
the one that was a 49er eventually?
Yeah. The one that they eventually traded to San Francisco.
Well, good on him for finding a better organization, because my god, the Commanders are a dumpster fire.
I mean, this whole thing has been bad ever since Dan Snyder took it over back in the late 90s. I mean, he's basically just sent this thing on a proverbial nosedive. This was previously owned by Jack Cook before he died. And unfortunately, he didn't leave it in his son for the will, so we ended up with this problem.
Yep.
And yes, there were more problems with this than solutions. Please, NFL owners, understand the assignment. The fan base begs of you.
Yeah, and the NFL as a whole, like this was off script too, but they added a new rule where they had to have someone of their culture or what have
Oh,
you to
we've
be
mentioned
present.
this before in an earlier episode of the podcast.
Okay. Yeah, because like I saw that on Twitter today, and I was like, "Ooh, I thought they did already have that
Yeah,
in order."
I think the expansions to the Rooney Rule we mentioned. I know it was an earlier episode of the podcast, but I cannot remember if it was episode 2 or episode 3 that we mentioned this in.
Well, this also
But
tells you how much I should trust into Twitter when it comes to my sports news.
well, I think we were already about a step ahead on it.
All right.
I know there was some new practice squad rules, but all of the stuff that I was reading on that, like, of course, you know how some of these bylaws have like weird language inside of it and all the legalese and yes, I am saying that there's a language called legalese. Is it really a universal language? No, but it's legal jargon, which makes it that. So we had that going on. But Ruckus, I'm now going to say in baseball, there was a major action that happened over the weekend, just about an hour and a half up the road from me. And I was going to leave it to you to take it away.
Oh, so Adley Rushman, he was called up to the Bigs, also known the Show, uh, for the Baltimore Orioles Saturday. I mean, let's be honest, the Orioles need all the help they can get, and I am happy for your team that Adley Rushman came up to plate, literally, not figuratively. Um, he had a solid first week, and he even had a leadoff triple to start off his career.
He started out this thing with a triple.
He is
I mean,
dripping with them triples. Oh, up
I mean,
in Baltimore.
I'm a Red Sox fan, but I'm saying that really Baltimore just only about an hour and a half up the road. I mean, and a funny thing is, I was actually talking with a friend of mine who actually lives in the city, and I was up to his house back in November, and he and I basically had to pass by Camden Yards while we were down there. He actually was in the stadium at Opusy the night before Rushman was called up. I had told him
Insane.
he had missed it. He had missed a major happening in Orioles sports by a day.
You know what's
By
also crazy? Zach Hampel also missed Otani's first home run, or not first home run, 100th home run at the Oakland Coliseum recently.
oh yeah, but that dude is that dude as far as like getting baseballs and stuff like that. I've heard like very mixed opinions on. I mean, super cool for being able to get a ball, like just to get a ball, but it just sounds like for all the baseballs he's gotten and stuff like that, he just sounds like a total jerk.
Yeah, yeah. That pretty much puts the proof in the pudding there, because like, yeah, he also was known for catching Jeter's 3,000th hit, I believe, too, which was a homer. But other than that, as far as the Orioles, I'm really happy for your team. Rushman is gonna make a big impact on their team. I know Bobby Witt on our team, as far as the Royals, has made a big impact on defense and on offense. But I'm happy, and I'm glad that your team is improving, because the Orioles have needed it for much time.
I think really the biggest thing that for all Orioles fans are probably saying for this whole thing is it's about time. It is about time that this guy finally gets up there.
Yeah, and people are saying that now about Vinny Biscano over in I probably just butchered his last name, but from AAA. Everybody wants him
Wait,
called up for
wait,
the Royals.
which? Oh, for the Royals.
Yeah.
Uh, I. What is he in like the top? Is he one of the top 20 prospects or something like that?
Let me quickly get that.
Because it would all depend. I mean, if he's like a top 20 prospect and is doing well in AAA, consider it. But choose your spots wisely. As I mean, look at what some
He's a
teams that
first baseman.
yeah, I mean he's a first baseman, but what rank in the prospect world is he?
I really don't know, to be honest with you, but I've just heard a lot of buzz about him on Twitter from Royals fans, and also a lot of the questions regarding the future of the pitching staff as far as coaching. Because a lot of
Oh,
people would rather have Cal Eldred fired than Pescatino being called up. Um, Player projections for Pescatino. Um, because they're talking about Melendez getting 41 home runs last year, which is freaking amazing. Um,
I think he's stuck in a log jam. I think he's stuck in a log jam.
I'm
The only
hoping
way,
that I'm speaking of log jams. I hope he doesn't become what um the okay. So he's number 17 on Kansas City's prospects on MLB Pipeline. Um, Trying to think of the other guy that we have currently on the squad that last year had a lot of going back and forth to Omaha and the bigs for the longest time. Let's see here. Give me one moment. Uh, Edward Olivares. That's who I was going for. So Edward Olivares was jumping back and forth like a freaking pinball in a pinball machine last season, and a lot of fans, including me, were like pissed off because it was between Edward Olivares, Michael A. Taylor, and Benintendi, and then they also had Isbell. But we, not to mention, we still had Jorge Soler, so we were trying to get him some minutes while dealing with that too.
yeah, innings and at bats. Yeah, I'm gonna say I think if Melendez is truly going to be the future of the Royals, as much you don't like me saying this, Salvador Perez is going to have to get dealt in a blockbuster deadline deal.
I wouldn't be against that, but it would kind of suck to see that day come by because the same thing happened with Mike Moustakas in 2017 because he ended up or actually it was 20 I believe it was 2018 when he got traded to the Brewers because 2017 was the farewell tour for all four of them with Kane, Escobar, Moustakas, Hosmer
Yeah.
being them. And then in 2018, he got dealt to the Brewers for Jorge Lopez, Brett Phillips, and some cash considerations. Which now both Brett Phillips and Jorge Lopez are on different teams, and Jorge Lopez being on your Orioles squad, and Brett Phillips being on the Rays.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, Ruckus, I mean, I am naturally a Red Sox fan. I just said of course the Orioles because they're close, but
Yeah, but if in that case, where do you think Perez would actually go? Like, if you had to guess the team.
I'm not even saying that this would happen this year.
Right, I'm just saying, who do you think he would go to? Because my thing is he'd probably go to the Red Sox or some other team that really needs help at like defensively or offensively. But
I'm gonna say that
anyways,
actually I don't think the actually I don't have the Red Sox that high on a concern unless Salvi chooses to play first. The only condition would be if Salvi played first.
he could still universal DH though, or just
Yeah,
play DH.
yeah, but we already have that. We already have that. We have JD Martinez. We have
I
JD
mean,
Martinez.
there's always the injury concern too in general, just with every team. So you
True,
never know.
true, but I'm saying like so long as JD Martinez is healthy, and we may be able to rotate in Bobby Bombs every now and again.
What about
And
Kike?
I mean, Kike doesn't play first. Out of
I,
all of his utility positions, Kike Hernandez does not play first base. So right now, really at first base, other than Bobby Bombs, it's Franchi. We've been using Franchi Cordero there. Which is that a long-term solution? Absolutely not. But is it a solution that has worked for the time being? Yeah. But I will say this: while we've been kind of talking about futures of teams and stuff that may be a little bit too far ahead, let's kind of get into the time machine and take it back to things that happened this day in sport history. I am going to kind of take us back, and we are going to start with 1935. All of these events that I will be speaking on occurred on May 25th, the day that we recorded this podcast episode. May 25th, 1935. Jesse Owens sets 4 world records in 45 minutes at a track and field meet in Ann Arbor, Michigan. This whole sequence has been regarded as the greatest 45 minutes ever in sport. The next year, Jesse Owens has his notable Olympics in Germany, where he won a whole bunch more gold medals. And really that historic 1936 this meet in Ann Arbor ultimately set the table for 1936. 16 years later, in 1951, the Say Hey Kid, Willie Mays, debuted in the major leagues as a member of the New York, now currently known as the San Francisco Giants. In his major league debut, he didn't even get a hit. He went 0 for 5. 33 years later, 1984, a trade between the Boston Red Sox and Chicago Cubs sent Dennis Eckersley to Chicago for Bill Buckner. We all know what happened with Bill Buckner 2 years later against the Mets in the World Series. Flash forward to 1997. The jersey number of Kirby Puckett, of his number being 34, was retired by the Minnesota Twins. Me and Ruckus, I'm sure you could think of another jersey number that was also retired in 1997 for baseball. I mean, this one here for Kirby Puckett was not universally retired, but one of them was.
To be honest with you, I was born in '97, so I was just a wee lad at that point. But could you give me a hint?
I'm sure you would know. I'm sure you would know exactly which one was universally retired because we just had a specific day regarding that moment that we celebrated 75 years for this universally
Fernando
retired.
Valenzuela.
No, Jackie Robinson, the 42 in Dodger Blue.
Oh, well, why? I thought you were talking about 34. My bad, my bad.
No. We had another. I was talking the same. Another jersey number was retired in the same year.
Oh, my bad. I thought we were still talking about 34. That's why I was like, I don't know.
No. That wasn't Fernando Valenzuela. No.
I literally Googled it because I couldn't like figure it out because I'm a freaking. I was literally like probably barely a year old whenever that happened.
Yep. And then in 2013, Bayern Munich defeats Borussia Dortmund in the UEFA Champions League final. This was the first time that the two finalists were both from German from the Bundesliga or the German soccer leagues. So for an all German final, Bayern defeated Dortmund. And that for me, it's like I kind of wanted to bring that one in as like an international soccer type of thing. Bayern and Borussia Dortmund are usually the major powers in Germany, and to have that clash occur, and for that to be the first time ever, because the UEFA Champions League, you're dealing with all the teams from England, all the teams from France. You're bringing teams in from Portugal, Germany, Italy, Turkey, Russia. Like all these countries in Europe are going to have like specific amounts of teams in this field. And they go through such a long tournament season on top of their regular seasons that they have in their respective countries. And all the tournaments that a season would hold. So to go through and multiple transfer windows as well. So they basically have like transfer deadlines on top of that where the teams will do a bunch of trading as well. But there's multiple periods throughout the year where it's like, oh, you have a window that you have to like there's a window where you're allowed to do all of that. Instead of like, okay, you can trade up to this point in the season no matter what. Like, no, you can only make transfers from this day to this day. So it's quite interesting how soccer overall as a whole works. And
right,
even though I messed around with some FIFA 22, it wasn't enough for me to really include it in the simulation. However, Ruckus, take it away on the simulation and do all that. I mean, we have some War Room stuff like later on. We kind of have a double feature of War Room because we have no high heat today. But this simulation that we had kind of cooked up was a little spicy enough for us to kind of talk about into a little more detail.
All right, as you may have not have known or already known, MLB The Show has officially unveiled their new feature program called Holiday and Friends. And I am at the point of the program where I get the All-Star Holiday, but his homies that are included in this program include Carlos Delgado, Roy Oswalt, I believe Shane Victorino, and is Cole Hamels also in that too?
Cole Hamels is in there, Ryan Howard, Chase Utley. Jimmy Rollins did not make the program.
They must have had some beef, who knows? But yeah, they were definitely teammates. If you already have the MLB The Show cover athlete Ryan Howard, you can use him in the challenges as well. But mainly grinding for XP, playing either Conquest, which in my opinion, The strategy for the pitcher XP is just going through conquest and just using the pitchers as many times as you can. As far as hitters, it's easier to do mini seasons once you get those pitchers all experienced up. But you can also still do the same thing just by getting the experience on the hitters with conquest as well, because it'll count. But I am very happy with that they added this because I'm a big Roy Halladay fan, and also rest in peace Roy Halladay a few years back.
Okay. I am through the All-Star Holiday. I have the All-Star Holiday now. I am paralleling. I'm going to be paralleling him and Victorino in some conquest. I'm going through my third run of the Nation of Baseball, and I'm about 2/3 of the way through that. Probably by the time I get through it, I will have Halliday either fully or nearly fully paralleled. I will be working on Oswalt and Hamels, and probably Hamels by the time that point rolls around. I'm about 52,000 experience away from the 95 overall Halliday, and then I'm going to start getting into the bigger. And then once you get through to 200,000 experience points, there's a conquest worth 30K. There's another conquest coming out tomorrow that'll be worth some experience as well. So you'll have your hands full with some conquest. There's a showdown worth 20,000 experience as well. And like once I get through certain things, I really want to try and get to 270,000 for a cover athlete. There's 340,000 for another Takashi Ozaki legend, which you would have the option of a Randy Johnson, a Chase Utley that you can use for the Utley program, and a Ricky Henderson, a Mickey Mantle, or a Vlad Guerrero Sr. I actually will be down to either getting the Utley or the Henderson or the Ricky Henderson card. There's big dog packs, and the last 4 levels of the program are 5-pack or 5 show pack bundles. So you're going to have. So you do have a bit of fun. This program is already halfway through. So if you are just getting the game and kind of trying to figure out and navigate a few things along the way, you might want to act quickly. Or are kind of lagging behind, you might want to act quickly. I should be able to get through to the major points I want to hit by the time this thing is all said and done. If worse comes to worse, I can always go into Road to the Show, or which I have started. I now have a AA player for the Hartford Yard Goats of my player, and he is a starting pitcher and a second baseman. So I've been streaming a bit of that on Twitch at twitch.tv/Menace the Menace 7. So I've been doing a little bit of a bunch of different things. I may even do a March to October to eventually cover some bases, or another mini season to try and just get me even more experience, more packs, to just try and increase my collections and get some of these other cards that I don't have yet. But this this 95 overall Roy Halladay that you get at 200,000 experience is a 103 stamina with 106 hit per 9, 77 K per 9, 92 walk per 9, 72 home run per 9 with a 102 pitching clutch, 90 control, 84 velocity, 94 break. Once you finally get into the parallel 5 superfractor level, you're going to have some things increase by 5 overall through all the individual attributes. So yeah, you'd be at 89 velo, but more than likely you would end up with 99 break. So those pitches are going to be moving, and Doc Halliday is one of those cards that is completely for real. Like a legit, like he really is a legit card. And I am so glad that MLB The Show brought him into and the SDS brought him into the fold.
Oh, for sure. I really love using him as a pitcher compared to Oswalt and Hamels. Hamels to me was like really like a slingshot, but like one that felt like loose to the touch, kind of like if you were to hit someone with a water balloon and then like you slip. That's how it felt as I was using him on the joystick control of pitching.
Oh, for Oswalt, this isn't even the best Oswalt we could get. This isn't even the best Oswalt. The best Oswalt cards are going to be Astros. The Hamels stuff, this is probably going to be the best, one of the better Hamels cards we're going to get. I wouldn't be surprised if we all of a sudden, if this Halliday is not the best card we get, I wouldn't be surprised if a major signature series came very, very late. That would be a 99 for a Halliday, but this may be the best possible Halliday card we're going to get, especially one that we can parallel. So there's still plenty of time. There's still plenty of things to do inside of this, and I can't wait to crack into this even more.
Like you're cracking into them packs.
Oh yeah, and you know that every time I go through I try to have like a decently big pack opening somewhere along the way. And by
Surprised you haven't made
decently
any YouTube videos on it.
Oh, most of the time the packs I end up with are normally not even all that good. It's not even worth a YouTube video at this point. Like it would like most of my stuff, because I mean I pulled a lot of like some of the good stuff like early on. I ended up with a Kenny Lofton. I haven't gotten a chase pack since that one that I ended up getting a Juan Soto. So I'm very hit and miss when it comes to packs. The goal is to just get a whole bunch of them. But then with that whole bunch, it's such a crapshoot as to whether or not you get anything good.
Yeah.
All right. But now that we've gotten through the simulation, I kind of subtly mentioned my road to the show that I've been working on. There is some potential for me to have another March to October in the future. Have not decided on the team at the moment. But that may be on the horizon as soon as I end up finding a free Monday to kind of start it. And all this Diamond Dynasty stuff lets up. Because 99% of the time I'm going to spend on Diamond Dynasty, but if there's nothing I really would do in Diamond Dynasty, I'll do an MTO. But now that we've gotten through the simulation, the war room is now in session.
Yes, sir.
And because we did not have a high heat, our war room is going to be a double-double. The first half of this thing is a baseball team builder of certain parameters that we set. The second half will be a start bench cut. My question to you, Ruckus, is which do you want us to start with? Start bench cut or our team builder?
I kind of want to go with team builder, to be honest.
Okay. All right. So the team builder, our team builder portion that we actually drafted during pre-production of the episode to kind of save us some time. The team builder portion was done by Wheelspin, with the exception that each of us had our own wheel. So whenever I spun the wheel, the first selection was for Ruckus. The second selection was mine. Full lineup. We started with a full lineup, which ranged from catcher to right field, catcher, first base, second, third, short, left, center, right. two starting pitchers, two bullpen arms of a certain kind, and a closer, and we also had two bench bats.
All right, do you want me to start?
All right. So round one,
You want me to just go by lineup?
Ruckus. Well, I was going to mention it here. Round one, Ruckus ended up with the Yankees, and I ended up with the Dodgers.
And I went with the shortstop Jarek Jeter.
You went with Derek Jeter. I went and I had a whole bunch of different options I could have went with. I had Piazza. There's stuff across all sorts of different positions. I went much further back, and I decided to take Sandy Koufax with round one for my Dodgers pick. On the second wheel spin, Ruckus ended up with the Seattle Mariners, and I ended up with the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yep, and for that one, I had Randy Johnson, the unit.
And I looked, I said, this was a great pick. You had about two different options you could have went with. And I was almost thinking he was going to go Griffey. I'm like, there's a chance he's totally going to go Griffey.
Nope.
And he actually didn't. I instead went with an outfielder, except I took my right fielder and took Roberto Clemente. So I ended up with a couple of like really, really old picks. But I had maybe a little bit more of like a setup that I could use some throwback picks. Round three, Ruckus got his own team, the Kansas City Royals. And then I ended up with the Oakland Athletics. And Ruckus selected.
I went with Salvador Perez, the catcher for the Kansas City Royals, because honestly, out of the years that I've been a Royals fan, we haven't had much luck at catcher besides John Buck. And even after that, it was between Miguel Olivo and some other catchers like Jason Kendall. But Salvador Perez, he's been our tried and true for a while.
And I was trying to talk you out of it. And the first player I was looking to try and talk you out of it to was actually George Brett.
Nah. Sorry, Brett, but I'm good.
Yep. And then for me, mine was pretty well straightforward. As soon as I saw that I had the Oakland Athletics, I went and I took Ricky Henderson. The man of steel, as in the most all-time stolen bases. In round four, Ruckus ended up with the Braves, and I ended up with the Cardinals. So, Ruckus, with your fourth round pick, you selected
Hank Henry Aaron.
This to me was a very good pick. I also was like, okay, if he was really, really going to be looking for a third baseman, I'm like, there was like Chipper Jones was on the board. He could have picked up
Larry. I ain't going Larry.
Oh, well, then Chipper. You had Chipper Jones. You had the option of possibly even getting like Ronald Acuna, Ozzy Albies. I mean, there were a whole bunch of other like you even had John Smoltz, which you could have used for your closer, even.
I had no thought about that.
Yeah, you actually could have went and done John Smoltz for either your relief pitchers, your closers, or your closers, other than just him being a starter. I mean, you had a ton of options, especially with the flexibility you would have had with John Smoltz. However, is Hank Aaron a bad pick? Absolutely not. It just wasn't the pick that I thought you were going to make, or that I thought you should have made. However, For mine, I went with a pick that I didn't think that you probably didn't think I was going to make. For my round 4, I took Bob Gibson. I went with another starter. I mean, yeah, a whole bunch of teams have a whole bunch of great starting pitching, but Bob Gibson was a very difficult one to pass up, especially when I knew I could get Nolan Arenado at another time if I ended up drawing the right team. I could get I would have had the option at Lou Brock, Stan Musial, Albert Pujols was also on my potential board list. Mark McGuire could have been in there as well. Yadier Molina. I had options. I even could have went with Ozzie Smith, but I chose to wipe out my pitching and use up my second starting pitcher slot for a very good pitcher in Bob Gibson. Round 5, Ruckus had the Rangers and I had the Rockies.
And this was before the whole steroid epidemic, but I picked Alex the Steroids Rodriguez, also known as Aroid.
And this was one that I really was wanting to talk you out of.
And I kept on telling you no.
And I was also trying to talk you out of it from that position as a whole. Yes, I did even mention to you Adrian Beltre. You probably could have even gotten Eric Gagne at this point.
Nah.
Could have gotten Eric Gagne, Joey Gallo, Michael Young. Well, Michael Young probably could have played third. You had options, and I am not an A-Rod guy at all, and I was shocked you were able to do it.
He was really good with them with the Rangers, so I figured why not.
Yeah, and for me, my round 5, because I did not take him in round 4, I was able to actually scoop up Nolan Arenado here, which was very, very smart on my part. I could have went Chris Bryant. I had Tulo on the brain. I had Trevor Story on the brain. I had Carlos Gonzalez. But I decided to pass up on all of that for Nolan Arenado. Round 6. Ruckus had the Rays. I had the Angels.
And I picked Ben Zobrist. Not only was he a 2-time world champion with 2 teams, 2 different ones in that fact, but I had faith at second with him.
I think Ben Zobrist. I'm gonna double check here, but I think Ben Zobrist is actually only a 1-time champion.
Nope, he won with the Cubs as well. He won with the Royals and Cubs. He won with the Royals first and then won with the Cubs.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, I forgot. He was also... Oh, yeah. What also didn't help is that he was dealt twice. Or that he was a... Oh, he...
Because he originally played with the Rays and then went around and then eventually went from the Athletics to the Royals and then signed a contract with the Cubs.
Yeah, he was dealt twice. Yeah, he was dealt twice. Yeah, he was dealt in the 2014 offseason to Oakland, and then there was a meniscus injury, and then he was dealt to the Royals in a deadline deal. I forgot he was a deadline deal to the Royals. And then the next year he wins it as a Chicago Cub. But that's actually a pretty knowing your Royals basis, that you could have even grabbed Zobrist sooner.
But why would I do that when I have Salvi now?
That is probably true. Well, your Texas pick. Well, here's the thing: if you would have grabbed Zobrist with your Royals pick, you had Pudge available, and you could have taken Pudge away from me with your Texas pick, and
I,
would have had a better option at third.
I mean, there was a lot of options, but I decided to go with a little bit of young and old, mostly old at this point.
Yeah, I think we all ended up choosing a little bit of old. um, but my Angels pick, I went young. And though I was thinking Shohei Ohtani, I was out of pitchers. So I took Mike Trout. It wasn't necessarily a no-brainer because of the Ohtani effect, but it was pretty painstakingly obvious that I wasn't going to be getting a ton of things available. At round 7, Ruckus ended up with the Marlins, and I ended up with the Red Sox.
And I could have had a number or a plethora of different players, but I decided to go with the most, like, probably it probably wasn't the smartest pick, but at the same time it was the one I thought of in the beginning as far as usage, and that was Giancarlo Stanton as a bench bat. Because he could come in, whack a ball. He doesn't have that much control as far as swing. He just literally whacks the ball. You could give him um, you could give him one of those like eye patches, or like just blind him, and he would still whack the ball, guaranteed.
Oh, I completely would have been like, you could have had, like, you had the opportunity at a pitching rotate at two starting pitchers that would throw the ball so hard that you would that that you could pretty much be very, very difficult to hit. Pretty much with your Rangers pick, I was really wanting you to steer away from A-Rod at third. So bad. And you very well could have had Miguel Cabrera as well. But round 7 for me, I also took a bench bat, and I took Yaz. The original Yaz, that is, in Carl Yastrzemski. I was between a couple of different bench bats. I also was looking at Ted Williams. I could have done Mookie Betts. I could have done a lot of different things. But I chose Carl Yastrzemski. At round 8, Ruckus ended up with the Baltimore Orioles. And I ended up with the Chicago Cubs.
With this pick, I figured this would probably be the best opportunity to go with the bullpen. I mean, there's not a whole lot to say with the bullpen on the Orioles, but when it comes to Zach Britton, that's who I picked as one of my relief pitchers.
Well, there were a few options I could have went with, and I didn't. Darren O'Day, Armando Benitez, Jesse Orozco was a part of that. There were a whole bunch of different viable options, but I but that would have been for me, like, eventually later on. However, I had the Cubs. So for me, like a lot of Cubs infielder, I could have went Rizzo. I could have went Rizzo in round 8. But I had a lot of like interchangeable options. I took Ernie Banks at round 8. Because mostly I wasn't bothering to look at a reliever for the Cubs. So I took Ernie Banks at round 8. At round 9, this was the only time that Ruckus and I both ended up with the same team. In round 9, Ruckus and I both had the Blue Jays.
And with that theme and the fact that I love Roy Halladay, I had to pick him. Roy Halladay, the Doc.
Then I said, I'm out of starting pitching. There is nothing really I can do. I need a first baseman, though, because I totally messed up. And instead of taking Anthony Rizzo, I took Ernie Banks, which then would have given me the opportunity at Bo Bichette. So my big thing was did I decide, or did I want Vlad Jr. or did I want Carlos Delgado? I went with the lefty bat because I had enough righties in my lineup, for crying out loud. And I took Carlos Delgado for my round 9 pick. In round 10, Ruckus ended up with the Cleveland Guardians, and I ended up with the Miami Marlins.
And with that pick, I took the center fielder Grady Sizemore.
And that had the most intrigue to it as well. Because I'm like, though Sizemore is good. I'm like, do I steer him away from this and kind of maybe have him swap his outfield, maybe have Hank play center and have him grab like a Manny Ramirez type ordeal? Or he also had first base available, so Jim Thome was an option. The Phillies haven't been picked on either board. The White Sox, I think none of us, I think, had the White Sox yet. So Thome, so pretty much Thome was also safe.
That's for show.
But for me, for the Marlins, I went with the catcher. And I took Pudge Rodriguez here for his 2003 appearance. I mean, if you weren't grabbing Pudge at Texas for your Texas pick, I'm like, I have a Marlins pick and an opportunity at Pudge Rodriguez. I may as well take it.
Oh yeah.
In round 11, Ruckus ended up with the Cardinals. I had the Mets.
And as a Cardinals, with my knowledge with the Cardinals, I thought about it, and this is a local Missouri native that is currently playing for the St. Louis Cardinals. Not always playing, but he is on the roster. His name is the Machine Albert Pujols, first base.
And this is another one that I was like, okay, I'm like, he could have put him at third. He had third as an option as well. But for me, I took in round 11, I went with my pen. And then Billy Wagner also had a closing tenure with the New York Mets. So I ended up with Billy Wagner.
Attaboy.
Yep. All right, round 12. Round 12. Ruckus ended up with the White Sox.
And
I had
with
the Orioles.
And with that, I had Bobby Jenks as my closer because, the 2005 Chicago White Sox were a pretty lucky bunch. But who they have to bail them out to close the game? Bobby frickin' Jenks, which I haven't heard a whole lot about recently, but in that time frame in 2005, he was electric. No one could stop him. Not even the Astros. Sorry, too soon.
Oh, I was completely looking at the as I'm like, oh, had he not picked his first baseman, the big hurt was open. He had the big hurt available. He had like mini. Well, I think you still had an outfielder at that point. You had Mini Minoso available.
Mm-hmm.
You already threw your starters, so Mark Burley was already gone. But for me, I was looking very analytically through. I'm like, I still have a bench bat. I could put Rick in there if I wanted. I could do a whole bunch of other different things. But instead, I went with a switch hitting second baseman in Brian Roberts. I could have went Roberto Alomar here. I could have done a couple of different things. But I went with Brian Roberts. Just simply for the contact and the speed. I mean, my lineup's already cheesy speed. It's just more cheesy speed to go along with the cheesy speed I already have. And yes, I did just say that. In round 13, Ruckus had the Padres. I had the Reds.
Man, I totally could have gone Eric Hosmer on this one if I really wanted to, but nah. I decided to go with the legendary Tony Gwynn because
And
it would be very disrespectful to do anybody else other than Tony Gwynn for the San Diego Padres.
Maybe if you would have ditched the third baseman, you probably could have had Manny Machado.
That's
Actually,
also a very big disrespect to Tony Gwynn.
Wait, you had the Orioles earlier in the lineup. You had the Orioles earlier.
But
You
Zach
could have
Britton was Oriole before he became a Yankee, so like I figured I would. I was trying to do. I'm not the brightest person when it comes to picking teams, obviously, but like as far as like who I thought of at that time, I was like, okay, this player looks like he could do it, you know, like that's what I was looking at the time.
I just was looking like, why in the world does this guy pick A-Rod? I'm like, A-Rod does not need to be in this lineup. Not that I didn't want, not that my pitchers wouldn't have been able to deal with A-Rod, but just A-Rod didn't really earn his place in this lineup properly.
I mean, I was going young A-Rod, not like steroid era A-Rod.
No, but Texas was also right around the time where I think he was exposed to it. So, or at least initially the allegations were there. So there's that. But my 13th round pick, I went to the pen and I took Aroldis Chapman. I got two hard throwing left-handed bullpen arms. In round 14, Ruckus ended up with the Nationals, and I had the Rays.
And with that, I picked Vladimir Guerrero Sr.
Yep,
as my bench.
Yep, because with the Nationals, we were allowed to go back to the Montreal Expos for it. For my round 14, I basically rounded it out with the bullpen. And I took Fernando Rodney.
That was a good pick.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of one of those things where it's like, do I go with another notable like infielder, like maybe a Wander Franco or a couple of these others? But I went with I went with Fernando Rodney. And then for the last round, Ruckus closed it out with the Dodgers, and I had the Brewers. So Ruckus at the end had to take a relief pitcher. I had to take a bench bat.
And for that, I picked Eric Gagne.
And then for mine, ended up I could have ended up with a few very many other solid options. I had the option of getting Yelich across multiple occasions, Lorenzo Kane, Aramis Ramirez, Prince Fielder was even in my consideration list. But I went with more cheesy contact. And no, I am not even talking about Paul Molitor. I am talking Robin Yount was my other pick. And this is where had I been able to take the bench bat for the Brewers, I'd have definitely chosen like a Trevor Hoffman or a Josh Hader type situation. So I ended up with like a few great options for what I had. And now that we're through that, we have our second half game for our war room in start, bench, cut. This operates like your standard typical game where you would have one person that you would choose to start, one person that you would choose to bench, and one person that you would choose to cut. The notable thing that we said for that is that all three players had to have played the same position at a certain point in time, and we had to specify it whenever we would go through it.
Correct.
All right. So, my first one to you, Ruckus. Start, bench, cut. This is for a point guard. Ron Harper, Tony Parker, Jason Kidd.
All right, so I'm going to start Jason Kidd. Probably bench Ron Parker and cut Tony Parker.
All right, so you're gonna bench Ron Harper, cut Tony Parker, and start Jason Kidd.
Correct. Because Tony Parker was a freaking injury-prone man.
But that man had a floater. Like his teardrop was one of the best in the NBA. I am starting Jason Kidd. I will bench Tony Parker. And I will cut Ron Harper. All right, Ruckus. What was one of yours?
All right, so I have one that stays in the realm of the NBA, and it is a power forward. So, Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, Dirk Nowitzki.
This when I saw that you had DM'd me this one. This was an incredible one to have available. In a dream lineup that I would build, I honestly would not be looking for power forwards to be able to stretch the floor, as they are more going to be used for screening and clearing out shooting guards and wings to be able to make plays, to be able to have those players score. So for me, I would start Tim Duncan. I would bench Kevin Garnett, and I would cut Dirk Nowitzki.
Interesting, because what I would do is I would start Kevin Garnett, bench Tim Duncan, cut Dirk. Because Kevin Garnett, he had like about the same characteristics as Tim Duncan, but Kevin Garnett probably wasn't as accomplished as Tim Duncan, but he still had about the same characteristics and was a bit younger than Tim Duncan.
Actually, Duncan is younger.
Oh, really? Never mind.
Duncan was drafted after Garnett. Because I believe, if I remember this correctly, I think KG was in the 95 class, and Duncan, I know for sure, was in the 97 class. Yeah, so KG's 46. Yeah, KG was a part of the 95 draft. So KG is 2 years, was drafted 2 years before Tim Duncan. If that affects your choice in any way, shape, or
Nah.
form.
It was mainly just as far as athleticism could go. Like, he could go out of the paint and shoot. And yes, that could have been true for Dirk, but Dirk was not as athletic as Kevin Garnett.
Yep, that's why I went with the athleticism of Garnett to kind of cover the bases there. All right, so my second one. Funny enough, my second one was also a power forward question, except that Nowitzki and Garnett were not in it. So now, what if Tim Duncan, who you said you would bench, but I would start, was in the same conundrum, but instead of Garnett and Nowitzki, it was Karl Malone and Kevin McHale?
All right, so I will. At this point, I will. Let's see. Let's start Tim Duncan, have Karl Malone on the bench, and cut Kevin McHale.
I think further outside of basketball standpoints would kind of have you more in a favor of being against Malone, but I do agree that it is. I do think that it is a start Tim Duncan, bench Karl Malone, and McHale is cut. All right. So what was one of your other ones there, Ruckus?
All right, I'm going to the NFL now. So I'm going. This is a running backs category.
Okay.
So it is LaDainian Tomlinson, Priest Holmes, Lamar Jackson. Just kidding. And Damian Williams.
Okay. Lamar Jackson is a quarterback, so he does not count.
Is he really though? Because he runs more than he throws. I'm sorry, Ravens fans, but you know that one's true. I said that in my notes as a just kidding question, but I just wanted to see how far I could go.
Okay. So between the three that are actually running backs, this one was a very, very easy decision for me. Like, this one was easy. I'm starting LaDainian Tomlinson. I'm benching Priest Holmes. I'm cutting Damian Williams.
Okay. But here's where I go. Me being a biased Chiefs fan. I would have Priest Holmes start, Damian Williams benched, and cut LaDainian Tomlinson. Because here's the thing. LaDainian Tomlinson, in my mind, never won a championship. He was good, but never won a championship. Damian Williams, on the other hand, has won a Super Bowl, a single one at that. Priest Holmes was also one of the better running backs for the Chiefs, beside Damian Williams. And that's how I kind of sorted that out.
Yeah. I mean, you went you went that route, but I'm like, LaDainian Tomlinson, out of all of those three, is the most electric player on the board. No pun intended.
You and your Chargers.
Yeah, that was a no pun intended, but clearly very, very. Yeah, I could see why you went with the two Chiefs and cut the Charger. I'm like, no. The Charger's also a Hall of Famer, while Priest Holmes and Damian Williams are not.
That's for sure. They should be.
Yeah. LaDainian Tomlinson never won a championship, but that was because those teams in San Diego at the time just were not built for it. I mean, they were good enough to try and push themselves toward getting there, but Marty Schottenheimer being fired after that 14-2 season was just whack. And it all ended up going a little bit getting a little bit whacked out after that. All right. So, my next one here, I am going with second baseman. So this is going to be a baseball one. Robinson Cano, Dustin Pedroia, Roberto Alomar.
Oof. Start Roberto Alomar. You said Dustin Pedroia as well.
Dustin Pedroia, Robinson Cano.
Bench Dustin Pedroia, cut Robinson Cano. As a Royals fan, and as many other Royals fans, he's a dead commodity. If you see him in the streets, you're probably gonna boo him or just really just give him a taste of his own medicine because of the fact that he picked a different candidate for the home run derby than Billy Butler. Because come on, man, that's a dud in my opinion. But that wasn't my dud for this week.
I have done this. I will be starting Dustin Pedroia. I will bench Robinson Cano, and I'm cutting Roberto Alomar. Alomar outside of baseball. I love that Roberto Alomar bats contact, bats switch, but other than those major things and Roberto Alomar being a solid baseball player, I think the things off the field will keep Roberto Alomar off the field in this regard. So that is why I chose to start Pedroia, bench Cano, cut Alomar.
Seems legit.
Yep. What you got?
All right. So for this next trick, I'm going to be pulling some quarterbacks. You probably already know where I'm going with this. So we have Peyton Manning, Donovan McNabb, Patrick Mahomes.
This one's easy as pie. I think you start Manning, you bench Mahomes, you cut McNabb.
I would say start Patrick Mahomes, bench Manning, cut McNabb. Because at least if Patrick Mahomes gets injured, you still have Peyton Manning.
Well, I'm going to say this. I would say at least if you run into small issues with Peyton Manning, you still got Mahomes there.
True. I feel like it's more like that. The way they do the strategy now with the backup QB in Kansas City is they have an older or other backup quarterback that has experience and or talent to get them over the hump if the other fails to do so.
I think that the quarterback. I think that the two quarterbacks are interchangeable.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the more it's the easiest decision we could make, but it was the most reasonable thing to pick. All right, so my next one here. I have shooting guards. Manu Ginobili, Ray Allen, Klay Thompson.
Manu Ginobili, Ray Allen, and Klay Thompson. I would start Klay Thompson, bench Ray Allen, and cut Manu Ginobili because Manu had some very bad injury problems for what it was worth. It seemed like every time I would see him on TV, he was on the bench. Like, he was a bench warmer for sure, and not for the reason that you would think I'm saying right now.
I think you start Klay, you bench Manu, and I think you're going to cut. And I think I'm going to cut Ray Allen here. Now, hear me out on this.
I don't blame you, to be honest.
Now, hear me out. Ray Allen and Klay Thompson are similar players. Klay Thompson is taller and does better defensively. Ray Allen and Klay Thompson can both shoot. But Manu is really a combination of a scorer and a little bit of a slasher. So those contrasting styles will work schematically in terms of the start and the bench.
Right.
So I think the complementary styles of Thompson and Ginobili work better than having Ray Allen in the lineup. All right. So I think you're down to really your one football one that you got that is tough as all get out.
I guess we could end it with on the NFL with the wide receivers. So,
Oh my, that one is a really good one.
So here's the deal. You got Calvin Johnson, Megatron, the man that is probably just a machine, but obviously he's a man, he's a human. You got Jerry Rice, won a couple Super Bowls, also freaking ball hog. And then you got Randy Moss. Randy Moss went to a Super Bowl with Brady. He struggled hard with the Raiders. He played hella good with the Vikings. Whew. What do you think?
This one's tough because there's so many different things. It's like, which kind of receivers are you going to kind of build the best? Megatron is big, but I like Randy Moss's speed. Randy Moss has more speed. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start Rice. I'm starting Rice regardless. I'm benching Randy Moss and I'm cutting Megatron. Because you can get the similar type of wide receiver in a tight end that may be like for certain things probably cheaper than a Megatron.
Fair enough. I would go. Definitely, I would start because if I had these guys on Mahomes' squad, I'd be curious to see how Jerry Rice goes. So I would go start Jerry Rice, bench Moss, cut Megatron.
Yeah, you did the same thing I did.
I was tempted between starting Moss, but like Rice, it seems like he has more like upside than Moss. I mean, yes, you could get Moss or whatever, but like Moss in the AFC West division was not very good against or with the Raiders.
Okay. All right. My last major one before my very, very specific one. I have tight ends. Tony Gonzalez, Gronk, Mark Andrews.
Tony Gonzalez, Gronk, Mark Andrews. I'm gonna start Tony Gonzalez, bench Rob Gronkowski, and cut Mark Andrews.
I think that Gonzalez and Gronkowski are too similar. I think you start Gonzalez, you bench Andrews, you cut Gronk.
Why can't you just have both Gronk and Gonzalez?
I like Andrews also as a blocker. So say you want to run a couple of different packages that involve maybe more of a blocking tight end than a receiving one.
Yeah. I honestly would disagree because Gronk could do both, but I can see your point on Andrews. I just personally don't see him as
I just think Andrews is a better blocker. Not that Gronkowski's a bad blocker. Just I think Andrews does a better job.
Sounds good. All right.
Yeah, and I think you're I would almost leave it down to your I think you're going to go down to your last one. I think your follow-up is probably going to be the better one.
I'm gonna go with this one. So this is starting pitchers. I have David Price, David Wells, and Kurt Schilling.
Start Schilling, bench Price, cut Wells.
I would start Schilling, bench Price, cut Wells.
Yep. All right, and I'm going to close it out with this one here. I mean, I'm sure you've got your little follow-up one as well, but the starting pitchers from the 2000s Oakland's Athletics rotation. Tim Hudson, Mark Mulder, Barry Zito.
Do I need to choose one?
This one is truly a start bench cut.
Start Zito. Who are the other two?
Tim Hudson, Mark Mulder.
Bench Tim Hudson, cut Mark Mulder.
Honestly, I think I'm in that start Hudson, bench Zito, cut Mulder.
I just remember Zito being an absolute dominant player against the Royals back in the day. I think I was actually at the game that he pitched pretty much almost a perfect game and shut us out.
I like that Hudson is also a more complete pitcher too, and also had a longer lasting career.
All right, so here is my follow-up. This wasn't actually a cut bench start. This was a can only choose one round. This pitcher this is on pitchers that you would want to close out a game in the World Series. This could be World Series Game 7. This could just be a game clinch or series clinching pitcher they could use. So here are your selections, or selection I should say. Madison Bumgarner, Wade Davis, Bobby Jenks, Sergio Romo, Chris Sale.
I'm taking Madison Bumgarner here.
I'm going to take Wade Davis, mainly because I'm a Royals fan, but also, Davis was electric in the bullpen versus starting, and these other guys, like Romo, he was part of a dynasty with the Giants, and the reason I didn't pick him was because like currently I probably wouldn't have him close out a game. And like I haven't really seen much action from him since last season, but like he's getting up there. Wade Davis did an outstanding job with the Royals. The only other reason I didn't pick Mad Bum is because I'm still salty about that 2014 Game 7 loss. But
To
oh well.
Bumgarner, I took Bumgarner because I'm like, you want a pitcher that can kind of get you to the end, and you can pretty much start with Mad Bum and get right to the end. Mad Bum has a lot of lateral movement, a lot of vertical movement, can pretty much do just about anything you want with a ball. So I took Mad Bum just simply because his mix is one of the best.
Fair enough.
All right. So now that we've kind of got through that, what are some of our stud and duds?
I'm gonna go off of what I saw last night, meaning Tuesday night. The Mavericks Warriors game where Reggie Bullock in his Game 4 performance to get away from elimination for one game with the amount of threes he had. And also an honorable mention to that stud is the Boston and Miami series just as a whole being a cat and mouse game where one team wins and then the next team wins and then it just kind of ping pongs onto itself. How about your studs?
My stud, I only took one this time because really there was no solid honorable mention for me. My stud this week is Trevor Story. In 5 games within the calendar week, Trevor Story hit 6 home runs and had drove in 17 RBI. One of those was a grand slam that was caught by Johnny Gomes on top of the Green Monster on Friday night. And MLB Network had to figure out, I was like, wait, was that Johnny Gomes? It was like, yep, that was indeed Johnny Gomes.
And it's not pronounced like the traditional way of saying it with Johhny or Johnnny. It's just literally Jonny.
And like, Johnny Gomes. And just his whole. And I'm just surprised. It's like, okay, he was at least bearded like it's 2013. Like 2013. But I wasn't surprised. But when he was talking to that, I was like, I was very surprised he didn't go, Cy Young winner. Not on our team. Beat him. Beat him. Rookie of the year. Not on our team. Beat him. MVP of the whole league.
We beat him too!
Yep. Of which, in all 3 of those cases, it was Dallas Keuchel, Carlos Correa, and Josh Donaldson, respectively. And Johnny Gomes is one of those guys that I swear, if he was not doing something like that, I'm surprised he's not in pro wrestling cutting promos.
He could, just not yet.
Give it time if he ever were to do it.
I mean, there's been other pro athletes that didn't go into wrestling that did promos, I'm sure.
Yep. But, Ruckus, what were some of your things that were not so great? The dud.
All right, so I'm going to say this, and it'll probably trigger some people and you know who you are. But the result of Game 4 for the Warriors was not the best. But I could tell that they were pretty much giving it away to the Mavericks. Even though the Mavericks had some leaks, and not the kind of leaks that you hear about all the time on the news where someone leaks like a photo or leaks information about something. They literally had a roof leak. But that wasn't the only thing that was kind of disturbing. Chuck Barkley's suit looked like something that you could sit on, especially if it belonged in the 80s or the 90s sofa era.
Oh, you're talking that pink suit?
Yeah, it looked fugly at best. Sorry, Chuck. That's all I'm gonna say about that. And everybody knew it in that whole analyst area with Kenny Smith, Ernie Johnson, and Shaq. Even Shaq said that that is one ugly ass suit.
Oh my god. No. That honestly, no. If it was not on your auntie's couch, it was at least on the picnic table. That thing looks like it belongs on a picnic table.
Come on, Chuck.
Oh my, that was.
I love the commercials that he's in recently, like the one with his dog where he named it Charles Barkley, and then the one with the SNL guy Chris Red, where he does like his Chuck impression. He's like, "I'm hungry, Chuck. You hungry?"
Oh my. Okay. So my dud also came from that set, except though the American Airlines Arena stuff was on top of it and it caused a 16-minute delay. My dud overall went to the Dallas Mavericks for the bench decorum rules that they keep seeming to find their way to break. They have been fined 3 times in the playoffs for it. And I think that the Dallas Mavericks may be getting tired of all these fines because it's limiting their money to be able to fix springing leaks.
What are you talking about? You have $1 billion man. To him, like 100K is like $1 or like $10. That's like
True,
an allowance.
and he matches and he actually matches fines like dollar for dollar to charities on top of that. So I mean, Mark Cuban's a likable guy, like a somewhat likable guy, minus the brash attitude and bravado. But I'm sorry if you're having to deal with an like the American Airlines Arena with a water leak that you kind of got to fix itself over. As Mark Cuban would even say at that point on his show Shark Tank, and for that reason, I'm out. But my honorable mention has to come to the MLB The Show and single plate appearance moments. You hold witness to me talking about this the other day. I was trying to complete one of the Tops Now moments where I had to hit a home run. I was hit by a pitch 3 times in a row. Like 3 attempts at that moment in a row that forced me to fail it. I eventually got it on the 4th try, but for me to get hit 3 times in a row and not and I can't have this thing go another inning to be able to step in. Can I get another shot at it? Please? Please, SDS, can I have another shot?
I mean, you eventually got it. Just not the way that you wanted it.
Yeah, I eventually got it. On an opportunity, I was able to swing the dang bat. Let me at least... if I'm going to fail a moment, at least have me an opportunity to swing the bat and get out for a failure. I mean, I think a couple of those were worked off of like 2 strike counts as well. So I may have had opportunities to swing and I kept fouling it off. But at the same time, I'm like, let me at least get out so that I can fail
Yeah.
that way. All right, Ruckus, go ahead and take us out.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to the Ruckus and the Menace podcast. I'm Ruckus.
And I'm Spennis the Menace.
Our Twitters will be in the description below on whatever platform you're on. I am Ruckus Sports 97.
And I'm Spennis the Menace on Twitter because Twitter and your stupid character counts. If I were ever able to expand my handle, I would use the characters I properly need. I only need one, dang it.
Come
Just
on, Elon.
one.
Come on, you can do it, Elon. Come
Yes,
on.
a lot. Just one character, like one character expansion on the handle, and then I would be able to do absolutely everything I needed with this handle to make it right.
I mean, technically, you could put a T Tesla in your T for the. You could. Not gonna lie. But.
But that would still affect the character count.
Not if Elon accepts it. He'd be like, okay, we can work with that. I'll accept it.
But
anyways, sorry.
That's aside the point. Like if there was anything that ever needed to be fixed, like is one extra character in your Twitter handle too much to ask? Apparently.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you for listening to us. Just mostly ramble, but also get some talking points. We are now on Rumble, as I talked about at the beginning of the podcast. And if you stuck out for this long, please follow us on Rumble. Please follow us on Spotify and the other platforms if you have them. Thank you. Have a nice night or day whenever you listen to this. Have a good one.
Catch you guys later.